Welcome back to Unraveled Game Thoughts. I thought I had done my top 10 games from 2022, but I didn't have that. So here's my top 10 games from 2022. I think I'd done past games and past years, and I'd done what I thought will come out in the future, but I didn't do my top 10 from last year. So first of all, I'll do a few runner-ups. I think it's a good idea because this was a tough list to put together. And a couple of games that were runner-up games, I had War of the Ring by Ares Games from E.M. Brody. And this was a very good game I got to play at BGG Con. Buddy Jeremy took the time to teach me the game. And I got to demo it, so that was a lot of fun. That was a really tough one that almost made it onto this list. Next on the runner-up was Blood on the Clock Tower by Pandemonium Games, designed by Stefan Metting. And I got to play. I've played it a couple of times now at our local, one of our local gaming. I don't want to call it a store. It's more like a brew pub and a gaming option. And so they have a library of games, and we can go in there, and then I think they have 2 nights a week now, they host Blood on the Clock Tower in the evenings, and you can go and just jump in with a bunch of folks. Sometimes, I mean, if you go enough, you'll know them, but the couple of times I went, I only knew a handful of people, and it was a lot of fun. And social deduction is not my kind of game, really. I don't pursue those games. I'd have to look through my collection. I'm not even sure if I have one of those games. I like some deduction games, but social deduction is a little bit different. So that one was particularly fun and definitely worth going to do every once in a while, just to enjoy the experience, because there's a lot of things to think through as everyone's lying to you and you're trying to figure out who's good and who's bad and all that stuff. But that was a good game. From this past year, Foundations of Rome, I got to play while I was in line at BGG Con. Somebody broke it out. And this is by Arcane Wonders and designed by Emerson Matsuki. And big, heavy, meaty game. Lots of stuff. Very good game. If I was an argument for why it might not make the list, it would only be that it's just so large, and the odds of me ever actually owning a copy of this game are pretty limited because it takes up so much space on the shelf, and I just don't want to dedicate that much shelf space to it. I'd rather just break it out at a local game store and play it with people that are interested. So, but it is a great game. It's a lot of fun. There's some good mechanisms that are not complicated. It's very simple. It actually looks way more complicated of a game than it really is. And it plays fairly quickly, so I'd say that's a good game. If you have room on your shelf and enough game space, then I would probably recommend Foundations of Rome as a good game to have, especially if you host games and you could store it well. But I sadly don't have as much storage space. Next on the runner-up is Thief by Spielweiss Games, and the designer is Kosh, who appears to be a BGG user. I'm sure there's probably more somewhere, but that's all I know about this game. I've played it, and it was a lot of fun, and this is a game I would consider adding at some point because it's just kind of one of those puzzle, abstract puzzle games where you're just trying to see if you can get the most points by putting together the puzzle. And there's kind of a nice, pleasant puzzle game. I really enjoyed it. It was fun, well designed, good production value, easy to get out, easy to play. All right, last one on the runners-up was Verdant, and I got to play. I've only played it once. And I'm racking my brain trying to remember what game it reminded me of, but it's super simple. You're kind of sort of drafting cards and building up your tableau of plants, and you're going to be building trying to make connections, different, almost like a set collection, tableau builder at the same time, where you're trying to link certain types of plants together that match point cards and things of that nature. It's extremely easy to play, and it's a fun game. I don't know. It's one where it's like I feel like I have other games that kind of do the same thing, but this one was very pleasant. Probably the only reason it didn't make my top 10 list is because there were just other games that did newer, more interesting things that kind of bump it more into a nice runner-up category. So let's get started with my top 10 from 2022. All right, number 10, Lacrimosa. I played this at BGG-Con. It was one of the last few games I was able to squeeze in before the conference closed. And this is designed by, did I even write this down for Lacrimosa? I thought I did. Devere Games, Gerard Ascendi and Ferran Renalius were the designers. And it is, what was really unique about this game was the action selection mechanism, where you have this hand, you're always going to have these 9 cards. I shouldn't say these 9. You're going to have 9 cards, and whenever you take the action of upgrading a card, you're going to be using that card initially for resources, but you're trading it out with another card that you're upgrading to that's going to give you better resources, and then later on you might be using that card for its action. In the top part of your board is whatever card you're using an action for, and the bottom part of the board, you're going to slide in whatever card you're gaining resources for. So every card is multi-purpose, and you're never going to use the same card for both things in one turn. So there's a lot of crunchy decision making around which actions do I want to use and where do I want to put my efforts. And it's a little bit of area control, and there's a little bit of point salad-ness to it. But it was a fun game. I'd really like to play it again. I'm not sure how much longevity the game has. It feels to me like one that could be just surpassed by other games, but it has a good theme around Mozart's, just around Mozart and his, I don't know if you'd call it his opus, but sort of a combination of reviewing his past and then recreating his Lacrimosa in the present. So very interesting, really neat, creative ideas brought together, and a slightly more unique action selection mechanism. That is number 10. Number 9, I selected Turing Machine. Pure logic deduction. You're just trying to figure out, I think it was 3 numbers, and it's very themeless to a large degree. You're just trying to use some clues that you have to deduct these 3 numbers, and it's like this machine that you're kind of like use like punch cards to kind of create the setup based on another card that comes in the game. There's like, I don't know, I think like 100 puzzles that come with the game, and then if I'm not mistaken, there's even more that you can get online. It's really, it scratches this part of my brain that I can see myself just coming back to it because it's fun to do. And my wife's a teacher, and this is one of those where I'm like, this is a great game for teaching logic. Just how do I deduce something from a limited bit of information to start with, and how do I create opportunities to gain more information through logic. But Turing Machine is a fantastic game. I definitely would recommend trying it out. It's not going to be for everybody. It's probably going to be a little drier than a lot of people like, but it is one of the games I would seriously consider adding to my collection one day, because it's one of those you just want to get it out every once in a while and play it. And by the time you get back to maybe earlier puzzles after you've done 60, 70 puzzles or so, you're probably not going to remember what you did for those earlier puzzles. And I think there's plenty of options to look into online if you do have a very sharp memory and just can't forget those things. And worst case scenario, you can always trade it or sell it away if you ended up doing all whatever 100 to 900 puzzles that are available in various places. But number 8, Libertalia, Winds of Galecrest. I watched playthroughs of this online, and I did not think I was going to like this game. It's Stonemaier, and I do like a lot of Stonemaier games. I have Scythe and Wingspan and Tapestry and Viticulture. I generally enjoy them. I've played Red Rising. I've played. I don't think. No, I think I did play the time one. I can't remember what it's called. Yeah, so I might have played every single one. I haven't played the Rolling Realms version stuff, but got to play Winds of the Galecrest a couple months ago, and it was so much better than I expected. It was. I thought it'd just be so luck based and not, just be too much like just whatever, where you couldn't really plan ahead or try to do different things. But I really liked the way it wove together some very interactive mechanisms where you have to kind of pay attention to what other players are doing. You can kind of think through, what cards might people still have available, which to me that feels a little bit like memory. That's not my favorite thing, but it's still neat, and the way it all comes together, it's very beautifully produced. So it's quite enjoyable. And after playing it once, maybe twice now, I would enjoy playing this multiple times. It has some interesting, it's just fun to get to the table. So, all right, number 7. I struggled with where I really thought this landed. I've had this in my collection for quite a few months now. I've played it several times. Played it online several times before I even added it, and I was only fortunate enough to add it because a friend of mine was selling it and offered me the opportunity to buy it at pretty much cost, and I, was happy to do it. It's beautiful. It's not in my top. It's not on my top tier of games, but it is a very good game. That's Carnegie. This one is by, let's see, who did Carnegie? I'm thinking off the top of my head, I want to say John DeClaire. That's not right. It's Xavier Jorges he's the designer, and Quind Games is the publisher, and it's just a unique economic sort of game. It looks like a train game, but it's not a train game. But you are trying to sort of develop areas on the board to some degree, but you're using this resource, this department of your different departments in your company, and you're getting new departments, and you're trying to sort of upgrade the actions that you can take in the game, because you're only doing like really 4 different actions in the game, and it's just a matter of what department are you using to do those actions, and then trying as much as you can to take as many actions in the game as you possibly can, because it's like a you lead, I follow. So one person picks the action, and everyone else follows that action and does the same thing. So if you're not paying attention, you can end up either not being able to take an action certain turns, or just getting a very, very limited aspect of that action. But it's a pretty unique game, and it's one that I can see growing over time. There are a lot of departments that you can shuffle in and out of each game, so it's got some good variability, and it's pretty pleasing and fun to play. So, number 6 was a surprise to me. I played this at BGG-Con, and this is one of those games where I kind of like, I heard that a couple of friends were playing it, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll try that. But that wasn't really the game I was looking to play. And I sat down and I played it, and I was just shocked that Skymines was so much better than I anticipated. Now, I've never played Mombasa, which is it's like a reskin of Mombasa, is what I've heard. And so I don't really know how good Mombasa is, but I've heard Mombasa is good. But I liked Skymines. I appreciate that it doesn't have a theme that I would wrestle with. So it seems more situated around corporations and some space mining, I guess you could say. But It's by Deep Print Games, and this is by Alexander Pfister and Victor Kabilke. And I think, why did I like this game? The action selection is kind of interesting because when you're going to use these cards to select your action, and when you select an action, you're going to put the card in one of anywhere from 3 to 5 piles, depending on where you are in the game in the top. And then at certain points in the game, you're going to grab one of those piles, and that's going to be your hand of cards. And so there's a lot of sort of, how am I going to set up these piles of cards so that I'm pulling back what I need when I need it. But there's also a lot of little bonuses in the game as you move out on the board, and a lot of opportunity to try some different things. And I feel like this game left me wanting to play it again because I want to explore a different way I could have done that, or a different strategy I could have used, things of that nature. So very good. Almost, I hate to call it underrated. I just don't hear about it as much. Alexander Pfister's other games get a lot more attention, especially since Great Western Trail Argentina came out. That gets a lot more attention than some of the other games. But it is a good game, and one I definitely want to play again. Number 5 is a game that I bought I bought it thinking this will be a great game during the holidays when family comes to town, and there's several folks that don't really play games, but this looks, as soon as I saw a playthrough of it, I was like, that's a game that we can get the whole family to play, and it'll be fun. Gamers and non-gamers alike can enjoy this. And that's Ready Set Bet by is that Deep Print Game? It's by AEG, designed by John DeClaire. And well, a lot of yelling, a lot of hoopla, and but it plays up to 9 players, so you can get a lot of interesting player counts around there. I like that you can, I enjoy calling out the horses and not using the app, but if I want to participate in the game, I can put the app on and we let the app run. I think it's fun to insert a lot of interesting commentary while calling out the horses. So to some degree, I like getting the game out because I like calling the horses, and I just enjoy that part of the game. And then they have some, you can kind of do some pre-bets if you want to call the game and you don't want to use the app, but you also kind of want to participate in the betting. You can take these little L-shaped tokens and you can put them on certain bets so they don't block other people from betting on those particular horses, but you're just sort of guessing which horses you think are going to do good throughout the course of the race and try to gather as much money as you can. So lots of options there, and lots of neat cards and add-ons that come in through the game, that make the game constantly interesting and start kind of creating almost like player variability as the game goes on, because each person gets a different VIP card each round. So by the end of the game, everybody's got 3 VIP cards in front of them, and there's all kinds of things that can impact in the game, which is really neat. So Ready, Set, Bet probably falls into almost a party game feel. It certainly has that feel, and I'm not sure if I'd call it a party game per se. It's a little bit of both. It's kind of that really right in the dead center of that gray area between a party game and an actual game, but it doesn't feel like a party game the way a lot of party games feel like a party game, where it's just completely arbitrary who wins and loses to some degree. This one feels like it has a little bit more meat to it as far as that goes. But moving on, number 4 is a game that I very recently added and watched. I think I saw somebody kind of doing a playthrough, and I thought, I don't know how good this game's going to be. It seems a little too simplistic, and honestly, this is published by Deep Print Games. Designer is Scott Olms, and he designs the Tiny Epic games. And I know that some people love those. I have just found them not to be enough for me. I adore the little boxes and the meeples, and it's like a neat idea. But every time I've played one, I'm just now I want to play a real game that really causes me to think more. So anyway, Scott Almes, I saw his name on it, and I was like, I'm not sure. I have a feeling this game will kind of feel empty in some way. I finally watched a playthrough that showed a little bit more of the in-depth mechanisms of beer and bread, and I thought, okay, I think I could like this, and I decided to go ahead and grab it. Saw it on sale somewhere, and it is fantastic. It will not surprise me if this becomes one of my like top 5 two-player only games that I enjoy, and I would almost immediately put this up there with Targi. I can't quite put it ahead of Targi yet, but it is very good, and I definitely hope to get this to the table multiple times this year and try it out. But Beer and Bread, good game. Hopefully I'll do a little bit of a two-handed playthrough in the near future. All right, number 3. These next 3 were really hard to mete out which one I really thought should be the number 1, number 2, and number 3. But number 3, I'm going with Wayfarers of the South Tigris by Shem Phillips and S.J. McDonald, and this is published by Garfield Games. Wayfarers is just fun to play. It's a tableau builder, and there is a lot going on, like quite a few of the Garfield games, whether you're talking Architects, Paladins, or Viscounts. There can be a lot of things going on. This one probably has a lot going on in the vein of Viscounts, where there's a lot of moving parts, and it's kind of hard to figure out where do I invest my energy in my tableau to really gain myself the best benefit and the highest point scoring options. But that tension is fun. The journal track is like you don't know how long you're going to have in the game to try to build up your points. You just don't know, and somebody could easily cruise down that journal track, and you just don't get a lot of the benefits from that. And then maybe that person doesn't build their tableau as much, or players can ultimately end up taking a long time to kind of work through their tableau and work through that journal track rather, and so the game can end up lasting a little bit longer as people really try to build up their tableau and maximize their points. But the cards are beautiful, the art's beautiful, it's a lot of fun to play. It does take up a decent amount of table space, so you need room and table space to be able to play this, but really fun game. Wayfarers is the first game in the South Tigris series, and I think the other games to come are going to be equally excellent. Number 2, Heat Pedal to the Metal by, where did I put that on here? Days of Wonder. This is by Asga Harding Grenard. And I wrote these names down, and I probably misspelled them as I wrote them down, or my handwriting is not the most excellent here. So, again, sorry for the butchering of the name. But Heat Pedal to the Metal is an absolutely fantastic game. I could have put this at number 1, and I would have been comfortable with that. Played it once. Really, really want to play it again, and this is a surefire. I will add this to my collection eventually. Plays up to 6 players. I don't know a ton of games that play up to 6 players that encourage quite the same level of interaction that Heat Pedal to the Metal does. Now, it's still a little bit of a multiplayer solitaire in that you're kind of focused on your car and the heat in your engine and moving your car around the track, but you're racing every other player, and if you can get in the right position and get to use that slipstreaming to move ahead a few spaces, it's just so good. And I've only played it once, and I did a horrible job. I was out in the lead for the first lap, and then once I lost the lead, I could not get back up into the running for the race. I forget what, I must have had like one turn that was just like atrocious, and I think I spun off the track. I think I did spin off the track at one point. if I didn't, then I had to slow to a near crawl to keep from spinning off the track, and that just threw me the rest of the game. But it was a lot of fun, and I definitely want to play it again. So, Heat, Pedal to the Metal, might be definitely in competition, I would think, for Game of the Year for last year. When folks start giving out awards for that and whatnot. And then finally, number 1, I'm going to go with Frosthaven by Cephalofair Games and Isaac Childress. I played Gloomhaven with a couple of friends, still playing Gloomhaven with another group of people that we need to get that back to the table this year. But I've completed the first game and gotten through to the end and the final scenarios. Frosthaven we just started right toward the end of last year, and it's just a blast to play. It is real meaty. I would say there's more overhead to it than there was to Gloomhaven, but some of that overhead also brings with it a lot more meat on the bones, a lot more quality narrative pieces that make the story a little bit more engaging and a little bit more enjoyable, and make the decision points between scenarios and even during scenarios much more. You really have to think about it and try to think how this might impact me down the road, and you really feel like, oh, if we make a decision here, it could be pretty meaningful for the rest of the game, because you're also defending the town of Frosthaven, and you have to build up its resources and its defense, and you have to handle these events, the attacks that come against the city. And so a lot of your decisions feel like they're going to really either leave you open for more attack or give you the opportunity to better defend attacks. And the stuff you pick up in the game, the loot you pick up in the game, makes a bigger difference in the rest of the game. It's not just enemies dropping coins now. You might get coins, but you might get other things too that can help you build up the city. And it also helps you develop out your sort of trees around other things, whether it's brewing potions or crafting gear or other things. Those items, the loot that you pick up in scenarios, will help you with all of those things. So lots of interesting tech tree-like decisions, I guess you could say, between scenarios. It is a lot of overhead. It takes a lot of time to you got to get it out, you got to set it up, you got to put it away, and there's a lot to think through. And it usually, we'll at most get through one scenario, and it usually takes us about 3 hours to get through a scenario. But it's so much fun, and we haven't lost one yet, but we came real close on one of them, and it's been pretty dicey on a couple of the other ones getting through the scenario. So it's good stuff, and I look forward to playing Frosthaven probably all this year. It's a very it should offer quite a few enjoyable moments throughout the year. That is my top 10 for 2022. If some of these are in your top 10, or if you had other top 10s that you think I might have missed that weren't even in the runners-up, I'd love to hear about it. Love to hear comments on these games, that if you've played them and you thought, man, this was a great game, here's what I like about it. I'd love to hear some of those things. Post them in the comments. If you get a chance to like and subscribe, please do that. And until next time, thanks for joining Unraveled Game Thoughts.